Don't take things from abandoned buildings. You may just cause one of history's worst radiation disasters. In 1985, the Goiânia Institute of Radiotherapy in Brazil moved locations. They left behind a cesium-137 cancer therapy machine. 2 years later, on September 13, 1987, two men break into the building and steal the machine, as the guard that was hired to protect the building never showed for work. The men wheeled it home and began to dismantle it, with both of them falling ill that same evening. Despite this, they continued on. By the 16th of September, they were able to successfully puncture a hole in a capsule found in the machine. Inside that capsule was a bright blue powder, and they were able to retrieve a tiny bit of it. They shared it with friends and relatives, even painting blue crosses on their shirts, and some using it as makeup. Completely unaware of what they had and what they were handling. The handling of the blue powder was enough for the two thieves to eventually require fingers and an arm to be amputated. But before it got to that point, the men decided to sell it to a local scrapyard. The machine was further dismantled by owner Devier Fiera. When he was finally able to release the bright blue powder himself, he was fascinated by it, believing it to be highly valuable and possibly even supernatural. He invited family members over to see it, and once again it was passed around to friends and neighbors. From there, it was then sold to yet another scrapyard. Devier's brother Odison also took a chunk of the material, and he was a local bus driver. He unknowingly infected dozens of passengers. He is also one of the most contaminated surviving victims of the disaster. He can still feel the burning in his hands. His 6-year-old daughter even played with it on the floor before having dinner. Some of the radioactive material had fallen on her sandwich and she consumed it. Tragically, within just 1 month, she passed away and was buried in a lead coffin encased in concrete. Nobody knew that the material they were entranced by was highly radioactive. As the days passed, everyone who had came in contact with the machine or the powder began falling seriously ill. It wasn't until a concerned relative had a feeling the machine had something to do with it and took some of the blue powder to a hospital. Doctors were quick to determine that they were suffering from acute radiation poisoning. This resulted in over 100,000 people being isolated in the Olympic Stadium for screening. 250 people were found to be contaminated, 28 skin-related injuries from radiation were found, and 2 men, 1 woman, and 1 child died. Over 40 homes and buildings had to be demolished. Homes that didn't have to be demolished had to be thoroughly scrubbed with acid and vacuumed. The remaining chunk of cesium, as well as over 6,000 tons of contaminated clothing, furniture, pieces of building, and even dirt were packed into steel drums and containers and dumped in an abandoned quarry.